Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Cosmic Culture, the channel where we talk all things major movie and television news, theories, breakdowns, and much more. I'm your host Chris, and today we're going to be talking about Daredevil. If you watched the most recent episode of She-Hulk, you would have seen Matt Murdock in the MCU. But not only Matt Murdock, Daredevil. If you'll recall, in Spider-Man No Way Home, we got our first introduction to Matt Murdock, who was a really good lawyer, and we saw a continuation of him being a really good lawyer. But we were also coupled with a treat of actual Daredevil showing up at pretty decent length in the MCU for the first time. He was sporting, of course, the iconic yellow and red suit, which was his original suit from the comics, and he had a very important role in the overall plot of She-Hulk. Well, we can talk a little bit about what you guys thought of his character and the way they've adapted him to be in the MCU so far, but I also want to talk about other places where we may be able to expect Daredevil to show up in the MCU. Now, some of these are rumored and some of these are confirmed. A few of them will be speculated, or at least what I would like to see. So join me till the end of the video and let me know in the comment section down below, where would you most like to see Daredevil show up across the MCU? If you haven't already, consider subscribing and turning on that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the other major movie and television news updates we have happening here daily on the channel. You can also follow me on my other socials, Instagram at Chris M. Rosser and Twitter at TheCultureChris. Links to both of those are in the description down below. So, for starters, where will we be seeing Daredevil across the MCU? I know that this is certainly a fan favorite and that he has a cult following, even before his very successful Netflix series, Daredevil, where we had a very violent and aggressive Matt Murdock played by the same actor, Charlie Cox. Now, there is much debate still going on about whether or not this is the exact same Daredevil, whether this will be a variant, and maybe they'll touch on that, and where exactly he fits in the MCU, but several other characters will also be joining from the Netflix side of things, and we've also seen renditions of the X-Men from the Fox universe, and other characters join the MCU, and quite honestly, with the multiverse and the way that the MCU has been expanding, that's not that hard of a thing to explain. I'm just curious how they ultimately end up explaining that, or if they're just going to completely ignore it. But regardless, we will be seeing Daredevil across the MCU for a lot of separate projects. In fact, I think he's going to be a very important, grounded MCU character. In fact, Kevin Feige called it the street-level MCU, where you have, Spider-Man, Daredevil, the Punisher, other characters of that nature that aren't necessarily off in the cosmos fighting Galactus, but are very important to the central story of the MCU. So, the most obvious is Daredevil Born Again, an 18-episode series that will be happening on Disney+, and he will very clearly be the main character there. He will be fighting up against Kingpin, and I'm very curious to see the exact direction they bring the MCU Daredevil. Obviously, if you watch She-Hulk and you watch Daredevil on the Netflix series, there were two very different styles of Daredevil. Now, the one on the She-Hulk I really enjoyed because he was so smooth. In fact, he was smooth enough to rival Tony Stark as the most suave character in the MCU. He's a huge ladies' man, and his action sequences were very seamless, and he was very cool to see in action wearing that suit. But as far as the overall violence of Daredevil goes, we have seen a darker MCU, and with Werewolf by Night introducing us to the mythical, creepy monster side, and then you have shows like Falcon and the Winter Soldier or Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness introducing some more graphic violence or some more horror-esque vibes. We 100% could be getting some more graphic violence in the MCU, and Daredevil will be the first person a lot of us would point to have all of that violence in the MCU. We also know, and it is pretty much, if it hasn't already been officially confirmed, all but confirmed, that Daredevil will also be showing up in the Echo series. This will be very important. Echo and Daredevil have a relationship in the comics. Kingpin and Daredevil have a very complicated history in the comics, and that's something that we've all expected to see as well. Now, when we first heard all of those big rumors, the original big rumors that Daredevil was coming to the MCU, back when it was really happening, we heard there were 4 projects that he was going to be involved in. 1, Spider-Man No Way Home, which we very briefly saw him and he was involved. She-Hulk, he's only just finally got in, and we have the finale next week, but I'll take what we can get. Echo, where hopefully he has a pretty important involvement, and then the 18-episode series Daredevil Born Again. But it seems like they are ramping this character up to be very important in the MCU. So where else could he possibly show up? Well, this is where the fun theories and speculation and rumors come in. The next place where I think it could make a lot of sense for him to show up would be in Captain America New World Order. And the reason for this is I think this will be hopefully where we start getting little whispers of the Avengers reassembling. Captain America, who was traditionally the leader of the Avengers during his time, the mantle's now been passed down to Falcon. And I think with the coming of this fourth Captain America movie, it would make the most sense for them to start reorganizing, if not immediately, at least in whispers, the potential future of the Avengers reuniting for any potential threats, Kang, Doom, Galactus, that will potentially befall the planet Earth. Now, Daredevil may or may not be a part of the Avengers, but if he were to, there could definitely be a mention, a quick reference, or any type of explanation as to who he is to type of prime him for the future of the MCU and to become a part of the Avengers. The next on the list would be Thunderbolts. Now, this one is just kind of following logic. If he's not going to be an Avenger, maybe he'll be a Thunderbolt. It's kind of hard to tell where Daredevil would fit into the big picture. What team is he going to end up being involved with? Which other characters will he show up with outside of She-Hulk and Echo? Will there be a big team-up movie where Daredevil is an important character, a leader, a side character? And if it isn't the Avengers, it very well could be the Thunderbolts. However, I'm going to rule this one as pretty unlikely. I don't think he really fits into the entire idea of the Thunderbolts right now. A lot of these characters are kind of bad guys who are trying to be good or vice versa. And you know, that's not really Daredevil at this point in the MCU. There have been rumors that Spider-Man 4 could feature Daredevil. Now, this is a complicated one. One, we have no clue what will be happening in Spider-Man 4. Two, nobody knows who Peter Parker is anymore. So that does get a little complicated and convoluted as to, well, yeah, he was in Spider-Man 3, maybe he'll be in Spider-Man 4. All Spider-Man legal problems are over now because nobody remembers Peter Parker, so he doesn't really have need for a lawyer, at least that we know of at this point. I will say a Daredevil Spider-Man team up is one that people are absolutely excited for. The possibility of that, they're a lot of fun together. The only other person I'd rather see probably with Spider-Man than Daredevil is Deadpool, because their team ups are absolutely legendary. However, I would be absolutely satisfied with a Daredevil and Spider-Man team up as well. And then to finish up the hopeful speculation are the two that make the most sense, and that is Avengers Kang Dynasty and Avengers Secret Wars. These are the big team-up films, supposedly the conclusion of the multiverse saga, so it's going to be a all hands-on-deck scenario. Unless something terrible happens to Daredevil and somehow he dies or completely just goes missing from the MCU, I would expect him to be in these two films, or at least in the last one, Secret Invasion. What we really don't know is how insane these movies are going to be. It's kind of hard to comprehend. If you think about the comics, Secret Invasion comics, there's a lot that needs to happen between now and this movie, and a lot of different moving parts and characters. So it's hard to comprehend exactly what we're getting ourselves into, and to what scale it is exactly Marvel's trying to bring us. However, Daredevil should be a part of this if he's still around, and I hope to see him. I think he was a lot of fun in She-Hulk, and they have a lot of room to develop this character to fit into the MCU in a lot of fun ways. As I mentioned earlier in this video, Kevin Feige did make it pretty clear that he's an important street fighter in the MCU, and I think his story, especially since we're going to have 18 episodes of his series, is going to have a lot to tell us about where he fits into the MCU and just how important he is. But as I mentioned, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What would you most like to see Daredevil involved with? Love to see him hang out with Spider-Man in a really, really cool buddy kind of way. But let me know your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching to the very end of the video. If you found it helpful, useful, or entertaining, consider subscribing, and I'll catch you guys all in the next one right here on Cosmic Culture.